Morning, everyone. This is Russell Rucker, and I'm here for another constitutional talk. I thought today we'd talk a little bit about our Declaration of Independence and some of the events that went on that day. And there is a great debate over when it was actually signed. Um, it was brought in to the hall, what is now known as Independence Hall, on July 1st. And they started discussing it, and the debate went on through July 2nd, through the pounding rain, the storms that came through. Not all the colonies had permission for voting for it. In fact, New York didn't until after it was actually signed. But some of the others did. There was one colony that was divided, and they had to go send for him by messenger. They sent a writer out to bring him back. They say, hey, you got to get this vote in. So the gentleman serving in the army. The big debate over the signatures is whether it was on July 4th or whether it was on August 2nd or somewhere else. Now, the first time it was addressed was on the 8th. Benjamin Harrison was an interesting founder. His grandson was actually the president of the United States, but he served in the Virginia Association. He approved the Olive Branch petition. He was really engaged in an awful lot. Many times he was the committee of the chairman of the whole of the Continental Congress. Okay, he served in the Committee of Secret Correspondence. He served in the Virginia legislature later, and then finally as governor. But what's interesting about him, and along with Benjamin Franklin, he even suffered with gout, which was a crippling problem, basically of eating too many rich foods. He's educated at William and Mary. There were a lot of interesting things where this guy was very active. But the reason I bring him up, and there is information on him here in the Founders Encyclopedia that was newly published. That's where I'm getting a lot of this now. Benjamin Franklin, John Adams, Thomas Jefferson, all insisted that it was signed on the 4th of July. And that's why we celebrate the 4th of July, but also John Hancock. Now, Benjamin Harrison left the Continental Congress at the end of July, so there's no way he could have been there to sign on August 2nd. I think what really happened was they went through the debate on the 1st and the 2nd. Then it was sent out to be printed, to be engrossed in good paper and brought back. And then it was signed. And some of those signed then. Others left. Jefferson didn't last long in the Continental Congress. He was gone shortly after the Declaration of Independence. He went home. Franklin was gone by October. He was sent overseas as a diplomat. This Benjamin Harrison, he only served till the end of July too. So we have at least 5 people, probably more, that actually signed on the 4th of July. A lot of people went home for the summer. They had businesses to conduct. They had crops to bring in. They had all these things, these summer activities that actually did occur. And so the Declaration was then brought back in August. In early August, they had another mass signing. But even that didn't end the signatures, because as people kept coming back, and they didn't. It's not like they came in January and they served all year. They kind of came and went. And so as people came, even in the late months of the year, they were still signed. Those that had come and hadn't been there for a while still signed the document. The document that we know today. After all the signatures were done, and actually, initially, as soon as it was approved, there was a letter sent to Washington because he had to defend with the sword what we had chosen to do with the Declaration. But declaring independence wasn't the only thing that we had to accomplish. There were three things that we had to do. We had to get the Declaration passed. We had to send people overseas to try to get help from other nations. And we actively were trying to get treaties with France, with Spain, with Holland, with Russia, for instance. And then, of course, once the war was over, we got a treaty with England. So you had that going on. And then the third leg of the stool was getting a constitution passed. And Paine wrote a version. Franklin wrote a version. And this went on for quite a while, different versions that were actually brought in, and the discussion didn't even finish until they were way out in Yorktown. And this is what I'm talking about in Philadelphia, Yorktown, the new book that was just published. And when they left Philadelphia, they left because of the invading armies coming into the city, and they had no way to defend themselves. Washington couldn't take the city back because it had rained for about 2 weeks, and all the gunpowder was wet, so he had no way of firing or fighting a war anyway. So they fled out, and they took the Declaration with them. And one of the reasons they took the Declaration was because they had all these signatures on it. And those people would have been wanted by British authorities tried for treason. So they took the Declaration with them when they left, and they did a session in Lancaster, and then they went out to Yorktown, and that's where they worked on the Articles of Confederation. Just thought you'd get a little better idea of the signature process of the Declaration, especially being there's so many different versions and so many different writings, because this guy signed on this date, another guy signed on another date. So it gets a little confusing. And historians will forever argue when it was actually signed. But I think I've given them the best indication of exactly what occurred. With that, we'll catch you next time on the next Constitutional Talk. Folks, have a good day now. And bye for now.